Since back in the day of the second edition of the Svit prayer book, St. Tikhon's Monastery has been putting together and publishing, retranslating, and trying to codify all the services of the Orthodox Church for the use of the Orthodox Church in America. Now, over the years, they've made leaps and bounds as far as printing quality goes and updating translations for the laity and clergy alike. So in recent years, you may have noticed that there has just been this explosion of new editions of service books for both the clergy and the laity, which is all leading up to something big and something really cool, which will be the first all-encompassing English translation of all these services, service books, service texts in congruous, uniform publishing. So with that in mind, their latest publishing is just a simple Vespers and Divine Liturgy book for the laity. Now, on the surface, this might not seem all that excited, but when you take it into the context of what's going on with their publishing arm and what's to come, and, well, the pedigree of where it's come from, I think you might be able to nerd out it a little bit with me. So join me today as we take a look at previous iterations of these services and what makes this current edition a lovely addition to your library. Welcome back, everyone, to Orthodox Review, the most uneducated educational program here on the internet. Today, I am your host, the guy with 1 1/2 thumbs, Raphael, and I'm so happy to have you here with me today as I slowly but surely get my voice back after suffering the Kung flu. So anyway, as we've talked about in the introduction, we're going to be going over a few different iterations of the Divine Liturgy book from St. Tikhon's Monastery. Here you see the newest iteration that came out not too long ago. I'm a big fan because it's pocket size, but that's neither here nor there. This is one of the OGs. This is the second edition, published in, I don't remember. Let's take a look. So from the 1984, the translation from 1976. Now, I have held a copy of the 1976 in my hands. It belongs to a fellow parishioner. Unfortunately, he's not willing to let me borrow it. So we're just going to take that as a given. And so here we see their first attempt, and not call it an attempt, but their first iteration of the Divine Liturgy book. And anyone who's been to an OCA parish may have come in contact with this version, or maybe once onto it. But it is, aside from the appendices, everything possible from vesting in through the liturgy itself. And as we get to the liturgy, and we've gone over this in a few other videos, that there is, oh wow, this thing is falling apart. Not the best copy, but you get into the preparation of the gifts, and, you know, this is... There we go. So you have all this information here. So it's everything for the priests, the deacons, and the laity, because once you get into the Divine Liturgy, of course, you see the entire litany, the entire antiphons, and then, of course, later on in the appendices, you have the weekday and varials. But that's really what we want to show you out of the first edition, because that's what went into the second edition. That would be this guy. Now, the original was in 2 volumes. There was Volume 1 and Volume 2. Volume 1 was exclusively the Divine Liturgy of St. John Chrysostom. Volume 2 was St. Basil the Great and the Pre-Sanctified Gifts. So what happened later on in the early aughts is that they stuck them both together, and that was it. So you had both books based on the 1967 in one book. The only difference being is that you have the liturgies completely separated. That means that, okay, I see on page 31, we go here, and so you have the beginning of the Divine Liturgy of St. John. Now, if we go to page 101, you have the beginning of the St. Basil Liturgy, and it starts from the very beginning. Now, as we will see in the newest iteration, a lot of that fat has been cut out. But, of course, a lot of the fat that you don't want cut was cut out too. Whereas the only place you see a section for the St. Basil liturgy and the pre-sanctified is where the liturgies start to differ, namely in the anaphora. Now, before we got the service book for the laity that we're going to be talking about today, and I certainly hope my voice isn't cutting out too much, we had the publication of the 2 volumes of the Hieraticon, the black volume, and we've gone over this a little bit before, covering pretty much the Vespers and Matins. Pretty much. So anything you would need for the vigil, and then hours typica. Hey, editing Raphael here. It's worth noting right here in the video that this does not contain the typica. No typica. All that fun stuff. And then in the second volume, which is the Hieraticon, which covers all 3 divine liturgies, this does not have the text for the faithful in it. This is purely for use by the clergy, so they know what they're doing, and their prayers are in there. And so when this came out, a lot of people were bummed out because, they wanted a text that had things like the antiphons and the variables in it. And so we are finally given now the companion piece, which you'll notice is roughly the same size. A little thinner, of course. But so we have Vespers and the Divine Liturgy for the faithful. Now, at first I was like, well, okay, finally something that matches, but I wasn't completely sold on the idea that this book needed to exist if the other one was still in print. Well, the other one's not in print anymore. So here, some pros and cons. So you have Vespers, editing Raphael again. Yeah, Vespers, but no hours, no matins. So no hours and no typica? Oh. You have the preparation, Thanksgiving prayers for Holy Communion. You have all 3 liturgies, and I can show you in a moment on page 81 where it tells you where the difference begins in the liturgy between the 2 anaphoras. And then you also have liturgical hymns throughout the year, which is great to have. Now, the one thing, I wouldn't recommend this necessarily as a catechetical book, but it's great to have and to use. I am a fan of if you cannot stand still and stare ahead, then it's okay to have a liturgy book open during the liturgy. So that being said, none of the instructional material is there that you would find in either the old book or in the new Hieraticon. But what you will find is that it's beautifully laid out. And once again, very easy to read. And this is why I'm excited about a lot of St. Tikhon's books now, is because they're really trying to bring uniformity to everything in both the translation, the printing, the whole shebang. So it's a beautifully printed book, quite sturdy. You have all the antiphons here. You do have some of the prayers of the priests and deacons. But here, let's go to page 81. Did I say page 81, right? Nah. Yeah, okay. So, yes, so here we begin the Divine Liturgy of St. Basil, and it says right through the augmented litany, and then the litany of the catechumens is where the liturgy begins to change between the St. John and the St. Basil. And so you save a lot of room and printing cost in not printing the liturgy 3 whole times. The other thing you will see, and let's go back just a little bit here, because I mentioned the prayers of the priest and the deacon. Now, these are prayers depending on where you're going, you may or may not hear out loud, but for all intents and purposes, you probably should. And so they are printed here. Instead of, like, let's say, going through the liturgy in the Jordanville prayer book where it just excludes everything but the exclamations, thus robbing the laity of the richness of those prayers. So, pardon me, I'm getting a little dry in the mouth here. So, but as you can see, and let's go over the hard stuff. It's that leatherette cover. It's nice. It's the same kind of leather as the prayer book, which again, now that you can see, the layouts are identical. The typeface is identical. Even the page color. So everything is just seamlessly fitting together, even if we take the hieraticon and throw that on there. So the uniformity I find to be very attractive. Anyway, so there you have it. It's really well constructed, sewn binding, breaks in fairly easy. One ribbon marker, because how many do you need? You do have all the tones in the back. Still breaking that one in. But anyway, so now what's exciting, I think, about this publication is that it's leading up to the Psalter that we keep talking about. I've held the proof text in my hands. I've read its words. And if you want an idea of what that Psalter translation is going to be like, well, they're the Psalms that you find in St. Tikhon's recent publications. That being said, one publication that I know is going to have to get an update probably is the Small Book of Needs, even though it was published in 2012? Yeah, 2012. It uses the Psalter for Prayer from Jordanville, and since now they're going to this new Psalter that they've put together, they're probably going to want to change that translation up a little bit. But also with the retraction of the Great Book of Needs 4-volume set, they've been threatening to republish all those services in new texts. So here's hoping on that. But either way, if you're looking into a Divine Liturgy book, if you're in the OCA, I highly recommend it. It's a beautiful little volume. Fits in the pocket easy, breaks in easy, and let's face it, maybe it's time we spent a little more time paying attention to the prayers during the liturgy. But that's just my 2 cents, and let's face it, I'm not getting all the oxygen I need, so it is what it is. At any rate, thank you all so much for sticking it out and sticking by the show and waiting for me to publish another gob of juicy nerdiness. There will be more to come as my breathing gets better and my head clears up. It'll be a lot easier to concentrate on writing these things down so that I don't sound like a complete idiot. At any rate, don't forget to pray for me, and I'll be praying for you. And on behalf of Spooky Cat, her mom, and myself, don't forget to go to church, say your prayers, and remember God. God bless. Yeah, there we go. I'm dying, folks. I'm going to edit that out.